Okay, I'm going to admit her now. Technology is great when it works.
Hey, Barbara, I can hear you guys now.
Okay, good, good. Can you start your camera?
I can. I'm still in the car right now. I'm about to be parked in just a minute, but I can certainly turn it on.
Okay, well, don't try. Don't get in an accident.
Oh, I won't look at it while I'm driving. I know Mr. Burgess, I'm not sure if he joined yet or not, but I think he mentioned he has an appointment in a little while too. So I was going to park outside my appointment and just be able to do Zoom until I have to go in.
No problem. And did Joe say he would join too?
He did, yes. I sent him the link, so he should be joining us in just a minute.
Perfect.
We were texting about it before school got out, so I know he remembers.
Good. Okay. I know. This technology is good when it works.
I know. And it's like we tell the kids in class, sometimes you have to log out and log back in, and for whatever reason that works. I have no idea why, but so that's what I did, and now it worked.
Great. So I'm going to introduce you in a minute or two. Okay.
Sure.
I have some questions, and this is great. And I want to thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Joe's not on yet, but I have on who's our technology assistant. And Elizabeth is a parent, and she's a Herc board member. And then Joe too. And we're going to start. Well, should we wait for Joe, or what do you think?
Let me send him a quick message and tell him that we're waiting on him.
You're not driving, are you?
I was going to text him when I get to this next stoplight.
Or Paige, you want to tell me what the number is, and I'll text him?
I got his number. I could text.
Okay.
I was going to say I don't have. That's one number I don't have memorized. Which is
Wait, I got
probably a good thing. Or else
I got his number. Okay, I'm texting him now.
Calling him too much.
Okay,
he doesn't have a Facebook, so I ordered in your Zoom link. Should be coming in just a minute.
Okay. I just texted him.
Awesome.
Paige, what do you teach?
I teach a resource class for students with special needs.
What is that? What is a resource class? What does that mean?
So it's called Unique Skills. It's essentially a class where we can provide assistance with academics and independent skills to students that have learning disabilities, autism, hearing impairments, vision impairments. It's just kind of like a support class, pretty much.
You're not breaking up, but it was really slow. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. It's probably because I'm in my car Wi-Fi, but when I park in a second, it should get better.
Whoops. Yeah, now it's better.
Well, that statement was better. Do you have any Braille readers, Paige, may I ask?
I do not this year, but I think we do have a couple of students coming from a middle school who do use Braille.
Cool.
Yeah, we've got some good vision specialists in our district.
Yes.
So they've been really great. I've learned a lot from them. One of our graduates from Childs, Mira, she actually goes to FSU, and she wants to be. Yeah, oh, you do? Mira was my student. I love her. She's the sweetest, and I'm proud of her. I was actually sharing some of her videos she's been making with some other students recently, just about learning how to use different devices and mobility resources. So
yep,
she's a cool
That's
kid.
Cool. She's a very smart young lady.
And she's in a band too.
I know. I love it.
Okay, everybody's here. I want to thank everybody for coming. We got Principal Joe Burgess on, and Paige Teckle, who's our teacher. Hi, Joe. Hi, Paige. And Elizabeth Ritchie, who's a parent and a board member of Herc. And Chase is our technical assistant. And I want to thank you all because this will be about 30 minutes. And we really want to talk about how Herc has worked so well with Child's High School and Holocaust education. That's the writing theme. And Chase is going to now move us on to Facebook because this is our second week of Facebook Live. And it went really well last week, actually. So Chase, are we ready?
Yes, I'm going to go live in 3, 2, 1.
Cool.
All right, hold on, it's loading.
Okay, it takes a minute. Tell us when we're ready, Chase.
Mhm. All right, we should be live now.
Okay, so, and also everybody can share it on their Facebook page if they want to. So I'm going to start introducing. So we have Principal Joe Burgess on, and hi, Joe, and Paige Teckle, who's a teacher at Child's High School, and Elizabeth Ritchie, who's our Herc board member and a parent of a high school student, actually in a middle schooler also. And I'm Barbara Goldstein, the executive director of the Holocaust Education Resource Council. And I've invited everybody on today because we're really going to feature Holocaust education in our community in the schools. And I want to start with Principal Burgess and how 4 years ago, I just pulled up our background. We worked so well on the Holocaust Education Week. And we did a video and we had a Holocaust survivor come speak, and we worked with the culinary department. We worked with Paige's class and did an amazing exhibit. But Joe, can you tell us also like how long you've been a principal at Child's and why you really think Holocaust education is so important to students there?
Well, so I'm Joe Burgess. I am the principal at Child's High School, and I've been here for 9 years, finishing up the 9th year here since the summer of 2012. And before I even get to those things, I just want to say, Barbara and I go back a long time when her kids were in school. So that kind of, I'm telling them both of us at the same time, but and I've been to Barbara's workshops over the years, and she's always been a help when everybody's been struggling to find resources. Barbara will search near, far, and wide to get the help that you need at a school. So as far as the importance of Holocaust education, first of all, you know, there's that old saying, I'm an old history teacher. Those who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it. And it's from that premise that you understand what's important, right? We take the things that we learn from the past to help guide our youth moving forward. And not being afraid to have conversations, making sure that people are in safe spaces to have conversations. You know, this is not about, you know, when Barbara was there, you know, we try to make sure that we're very thoughtful and intentional about what we present to students to make sure that they are learning. And part of that process is of course, bringing in teachers. As a former teacher myself, you know, we don't dictate to teachers. What we do is say, here's what the statute requires. And then you allow the talent to come around to find great ways to incorporate it into the lessons to reach the children that you have in front of you. And that's and part of that is, as we come up with themes, we include Barbara, and then we try to find people, resources, and that includes everything from our English classes to our social studies classes to our culinary classes. How do we incorporate that? How do we spark discussions? How do we make kids see things differently than maybe they saw things yesterday? It really is like a across the school kind of thing, and understanding that you may not reach everybody today. It's about continually to reach them because I may reach you tomorrow. So you've got to be steadfast and you've got to be committed. And I say that just because, you know, I'm using Barbara as an example because she is committed. Like, she'll show up anytime, anywhere. I mean, and I've seen her before get out of the car and she is loaded down with boxes trying to bring them out because she is that committed to making sure that the people who are in education have all that they need in order to provide that to the students in our county, in the Big Bend area. I mean, it is a full commitment, and it's always been that way. And so that's the thing you're trying to do is you're trying to, while we have kids here for 4 years, we're trying to make sure that we touch them, not just that week, but continuously in the themes and the things that we do. So it isn't, hopefully in that spirit, that people can understand why it's important. I mean, the history is important, and it's important to understand what is your role moving forward? Where are you? How do you feel about your fellow citizen, your fellow person? And like I said, as long as I'm here, we're gonna be a part of this, and it's gonna be a fabric of our school.
Thank you so much. And I love hearing how the whole school has always been part of this. And every year, I think, Joe, since we started, like, I just my records 4 years ago, and we've been keeping moving. I'm going to do it again. Paige, can you talk about how this impacted your class? Because I'll never forget the day you said, you got to come see this. And I was like blown away. You have to unmute. Paige, you have to unmute. Wait, you have to, okay.
I've been doing that all day. Yeah, so my classes have always been really involved, and they know when I start talking about Holocaust Remembrance Week, they know that we've got a project, we've got something going on, and I have to keep things different so they're excited and they're learning new information every year. But I think you're talking about probably the first year we really participated, where we used poems from gosh, I'm blanking on the name.
Then I never
saw another butterfly. And so students chose poems from that. Yes. And they saw, different poems, and they created artwork with different materials to kind of, emulate the mood and the theme and the feelings of these children who were in the terrorism concentration camp. And we kind of created like a gallery down the hallway, and we typed up, and it looked really official. And we typed up, who the author was, a little bit about that child, and, some of their experiences, and displayed their artwork too. So it was really neat. And I think that's one of the things that our students, a lot of them are very visual. And so we can tell them lots of things, but when they see things and they feel things, that's where I feel like they grow the most and they learn the most. So I feel like as long as we're doing that.
That was a great year. And also, can you talk about after that? I think you did a daffodil garden, or you did with the what was done with flowers?
Yes. So I think that was the year after, if I'm correct. So we planted daffodils in the front of the school. And it was kind of this campaign that was going on, and every daffodil was to represent somebody who had lost their life in the Holocaust. And so we actually teamed up with Esposito's, was nice enough to donate daffodil bulbs to us so that we could plant them. And we spent a whole day out front gardening, and the kids loved that. And they actually did bloom, and they looked so nice. And then I think the hurricane washed them away that year. So we need to get them back up there.
That's awesome. But I love how at the end of the whole week, there was such an overriding reflection. And Joe, like, what did you, like, remember when the Holocaust survivor came to speak in the cafeteria? Like, in one sentence, how would you capture that moment? It was just the whole room was silent. Do you remember that?
Well, it was awe-inspiring. So, it's one thing when you have people who are educating you and talking to you about historical events, especially something like the Holocaust. But when you have a real life survivor who's in front of you, and they talk, and I tell you, the most important thing that he talked about really was how things were before, and how people did not pay attention. There were all these things that were happening. There was this change in laws, and and like how he set it up, and then everybody started to realize, gosh, they were like anybody else. And when he just kept going, he talked about, the people that they knew, like he didn't, some had died, some he never saw again, had no idea where they were. And I think it was that here was this person able to still tell their pain. But he was so kind and so sweet all at the same time. There's like this incredible presence, speaking to kids, and he was so approachable. If you remember, like, the kids were able to walk up to him afterwards. They gave hugs. I mean, but it was amazing because it's the speakers like this who sort of like he understands his role. Like, he's here to tell that story, to make sure that our kids get to hear that, to understand that there's no blame. The point is, you got to know going forward, it's like a vicarious experience. Know what happened before. And when this time comes across, don't let what happened to us happen to others. And he just amazing. And, you know, just so appreciative that you were able to have him come and,
Thank you.
yeah.
So I want to look at today now. So we're still looking at what happened before, but yet again, there's so much rise in anti-Semitism and hate. And we want to have the students understand this, that it's up to them. They're the responsible people to make a change. And this is why it's so important to continue what we're doing. So just want to say that going forward, we always have to keep teaching this. This is just so critical to make a change for the future for the students. And so again, do you ever see any anti-Semitism in your school? And if you do, is this a way we can address it with Holocaust, or just overall the way that we don't want, not even Holocaust, like tolerance and understanding and diversity is just a way to teach it?
Well, I think this year, so our Holocaust Week looked a little different this year because we had to, of course, accommodate our digital learners. But kind of our theme this year was about the rescuers, the people that did stand up to intolerance and the people that were trying to do anything they could to be helpful. And I think that our students really like hearing those stories too, because one of their questions is like, why didn't people do anything? And so being able to highlight all these incredible stories of people that did do the right thing, I feel like was a little bit inspiring. One of the quotes that we had kind of incorporated with our curriculum this year was that we all have the power to make a difference. What we do or what we choose not to do matters. And so I think that that's something that, even though the Holocaust maybe is in the back of their brain, that's something that they can take and hopefully put into work right now, every day.
So what kind of programs would you like to see happen after today, like to come to your school or for even the community, that we could really become a bigger force, because we really want to do more if we can? What would you, well, if I could say, what would be your wish to make something?
Well, I think it would be awesome if we could get more of the community involved, if it could be some partnership that we work with our feeder schools, and, you know, it starts in elementary and it trickles up to us. And it's something that students, you know, start learning about when they're younger. And then by the time they get to high school, then they really have more background knowledge and they feel like they can make a difference and they know what they need to do to make a difference. I just feel like that's something that we can try to instill in students when they're younger. And you know, we try to teach them the golden rule about being kind and respectful and all these things. And so I know Steve Friedlander and I were chatting. We would love to get more of the schools, you know, in our community involved and kind of all working together as a team to, you know, share stories and experiences and teach our students about the Holocaust.
So I have a question. And this, I have always been, so I'm interested in going into education myself someday. And I have always been curious about, with a topic as heavy as the Holocaust can be, I think that, you know, there has been a rise in denial, especially with the insurgence of the internet and, you know, and how easily rumors can be spread, et cetera. And so I guess my question is, when you're in the classroom, how do you take something as heavy and deep as the Holocaust and make it relatable to a student who may not have ancestry that connect back to the Holocaust or any Jewish ancestry, you know, at all? Like, how do you relate to students that don't have that personal connection?
Well, Joe, you were a history teacher. What would you say?
So you said a very important word, and actually in your question, which is making everything relatable, right? So the first thing is, and I'll tell you, Ms. Teckle does this every day, is first of all, teachers really need to know their students. So I'm not going to take the same conversation with every same group of students, because every set of students are in a different place, right? Understanding your students then tells you, where are you and where am I trying to take you, right? And a lot of times you have to set up things that they know. There are sometimes they may not be, let's just say, for example, they may not be as aware about the Holocaust, right? But I try to find some kind of event that they do know, and then build up. And then say, here were some laws, here were some actions, here were things that happened that people just never responded to. You know, we talk about having the courage to do something. Everybody can do something. And your lack of not doing something means that people are going to get hurt. And by the way, when you think it's just them, because that's right, that's the lesson to learn, is eventually it's going to be you. And so you have to stop it when it's someone else, because that is going to be you one day. You know, just like on our campus, we have something called anonymous alerts, right? You don't have to come up to the office, write it down on the paper so everybody had to watch you come in the office while you're reporting something. Mm-hmm. It's being able to tell us about something bad, and then us as the people in charge having the ethics and the ability to go ahead and stop that and put a stop to it. Right. But the teachers really have to make the lessons relate to the kids. That's really essential. And I will tell you another thing that, because you guys were talking about like some activities that really would be good. It would be great to have some kind of longest table discussions with the kids. Yeah. Because for kids, sitting down, I mean, it works for adults too, but sitting down and breaking bread together, you find out you got a lot of things in common. And I will tell you, and Bar remembers this. So when I was teaching, I had a lot of my students that were members of Temple Israel. And one of their requirements when they were middle schoolers was that they had to go to actually different faiths. They had to go to those places. And I remember, and hopefully they forgive me, but I love the family. So I remember David Grossman. Oh gosh, I can't remember his brother. But Andrew, God, Andrew would kill me right now. And so, but I remember, and I said, hey, I want y'all to take notes. Like, they were great because they went to churches, Buddhist temples. But one of the things was they were trying to learn about other cultures and religions, both to understand what was different, but also understand what brought them together. And a lot of times people are in these silos, and you was talking about the internet. If the internet puts you in these silos, man, you get into these dark rooms and all you're getting is this cycle of information, and you need to see other stuff. Right. I mean, that goes for everybody. And I think it is that part, fellowship with food, because food always gets those endorphins going, and you see on that level, but also everybody, that challenge between faith leaders of, well, let me go to your house of worship and you go to my house of worship, because you begin to see people as a person when you do that.
Hey, Joe, so now can we plan the longest table?
Yeah. so that sounds like I was just kind of tossing it out there. It's a good thing to do. And I know the city's done a few things like with some of our SGA leaders, but that really would be a great idea.
It's a great idea. I like that, actually. And we could try that in some Holocaust related way, actually.
Yes.
It's really good. And what would you do if a teacher was dealing with this subject in not a very sensitive way, and then for their students? Because this sometimes comes up that teachers might do lessons or activities that are not most appropriate. And it's a very sensitive subject. It has to be safe in and safe out. So is there the best way to help the teacher understand that students are very sensitive when they're hearing this subject? And this is there has to be a right way, the right way of handling it, actually.
So first of all, I'm just saying this, Paige is working on becoming an administrator, and she was one. I'm just putting that out there. First of all, as the leader, right, you got to say, this is what we're doing. And you've got to be committed to it. Now, that also means that there's sort of like a collective spirit that has to be there among the teachers. So like Paige is with a group of teachers, they're teacher leaders, and they look at lessons, because what you have to do a lot of times on your campuses is you have to remove the excuses. That's in any organization. I don't care what organization you work in, people are going to have excuses, okay? And so you have to find ways to say, what are people going to complain about when we present this? And so Paige and them do a wonderful job of already knowing some of the complaints, antics, whatever else that could come up with. And you're kind of forced to sit there and go, dang, I really should just present this. Yes, you should. And that's, so it takes a collective spirit, because if Paige was doing it on her own, that's too heavy of a lift. But when we're doing it together in a group, and like, you know, we do things like I give them time, and I also make a financial commitment towards it. Like because they're in the summertime, they're planning. They could be at home, they could be working on other things, and they come in to do that. And so we have to make that commitment. And so that's, you know, that's all a part of it. Like we got to say that this is important to make sure that we are planning, but also providing the resources to make sure that this time is provided. And we're appreciating the time given by these teachers to make sure that we're doing really good intentional lessons.
That's the way to do it.
Mhm.
And so, Paige, what is going to happen? And do you have any plans for the next year yet? Or do we feel, what would you like to see happen next year?
Well, I do love the idea of the longest table, and it would be really neat to kind of have some ideas from you and from other Herc members about, you know, maybe what kind of food should we serve, and how can we, again, get our culinary department involved, because they had a blast with that.
Mhm.
And they loved being able to create some kind of authentic food. But Steve, my intention was to do kind of like a gallery walk, and have different pieces of information, and to incorporate technology with QR codes that students could scan on their phones, and it would tell them a story about something, or, you know, a specific person, and kind of have it be interactive, and, you know, for once them using their phones for something educational.
I love that idea, because we have to think in terms of the next place of the media. Where is the media going, and how do we make have a better education media wise than follow down the wrong path of the distortion and the denial and the, you know, anti-Semitism and racism? But let's get them more about, you know, what history was all about. So
Right.
we could do that actually. And then on there, once what you're doing, then we can share it with once it's on their media devices, then we can move it forward, of course.
Right.
Definitely. And I'd like to also maybe reach back to some of the past students, like what have they taken from this later? Like maybe if that's, because we had from, you know, what are the students from that saw the movie or were working projects? How did they, what was their reflections from it, maybe? Then we follow up on that.
And we did, I know a couple of English teachers followed up with students who, you know, had some really great responses to our curriculum we did this year. And so I told the teachers to look out for any kids that might be interested, to where we can kind of get them more involved, and kind of have like a club almost of students that want to help plan things and be involved and get other students involved. So we've got a lot of things in the works. We just haven't nailed anything down yet, but, you know, we'll be in touch soon about all
I
that.
just see you doing, both of you, as such a model, and I'd like to see maybe as an advocate student, because I would love to maybe see one of the students there that's involved maybe on our like the Herc board, or be like on actually under, you know, a committee that they could be maybe a spokesperson for the other schools, and show what they've got when doing at Childs. Maybe we could do it at other schools. Get out to the community, because there's a lot of schools that would need to see what you're doing actually. And if it's coming from a young person, I think it's more meaningful than not a young person actually.
And
What do you mean for young people?
One of the things I was going to say is that there, you know, there's probably a couple of quick mediums that I say would be best to use with the kids. Instagram, TikTok, and it used to be the thing, but, you know, there's still Snapchat. I mean, but the kids, that's their medium of communication. And so, you know, that's something that we probably could discuss too with our SGA. They've done a fantastic job here the last 2 years of beefing up their positive social media experience, because that's a whole nother level that Chase was talking about earlier with the internet, is the being a digital citizen too, right? Because many times people act normal, right? Walking around and in conduct with people face to face, but man, when they get on that keyboard, it's a whole different person. And so we need as much, you know, talk about being the right person online as well as or on these apps.
I really like that term that you use, digital citizen. I think that is a term that really brings home this point that the work doesn't stop when you get home and you walk into your safe space. In fact, that is where I think that if you're passionate about this work and making change that is going to benefit people in the long term. It's when you enter that your safe space where you then can take time to send them, be like, okay, well, how can I make change now that I'm here? That takes it from the level of, oh, this is just a daytime activity to oh, this is a part of my life that I actively want to continue to be a part of.
Right. And I think our goal is that we don't want them to just learn something at school and never use it again, never think it again. We want them to generalize it in all areas of their life, and it not just be a lesson about the Holocaust, but really just a life lesson in general.
Well, thank you so much. Elizabeth, do you have anything any questions you'd like to add or anything you want to share? Because I wanted to get everybody in.
Well, I think that Childs is doing an excellent job, and I think that that needs to be modeled by other schools. And that the seeing and feeling, I think that Paige mentioned, that is so important because that is how kids learn. And one thing I'd like to see Herc do is some kind of a trip, because you really learn when you're seeing, I think Joe said at the beginning, when you're interacting with the other, right? So on the other hand, travel, especially now, is not practical and it's expensive. So there can be some kind of connection with technology where you're touring, whether it's a Holocaust museum or Dachau, from a digital perspective, where you're getting that exposure that normally you're not going to get. And then if you can couple that with, like when you came to my house, Barbara, with Girl Scouts, and we made Kugel and we learned about the children of the Holocaust, those are the kinds of things that are memorable. When Joe said, you have to make it relatable, that poem, that starts out, first they came for the socialists and I did not speak out. And then it goes on. And then at the end it says, and then they came for me and there was no one left to speak for me. I think when kids hear that, they can understand and say that this could happen again. And if I'm not what I remember you calling us in that lesson, Barbara, an upstander, if you're not doing something, then it can happen to you. And it's not a Jewish issue. And a lot of people mistakenly think that Holocaust education is specifically a Jewish issue. It is a human issue. And if people can learn that at home, like Chase was saying, that's really where it needs to start. What kind of jokes are you hearing at home? What kind of media are you exposed to at home? And is that encouraging or discouraging, hateful or disrespectful behavior, whether it's face-to-face, like Joe said, or when they get behind that keyboard and the monitor? It's like that crazy person driving. They're a nice person to talk to, but once they get behind the wheel, they go berserk because they have that kind of anonymity. And I think the problem is that because the Holocaust is a difficult subject to teach, people avoid it. And this needs to be taught, but it needs to be taught by teachers who are trained how to teach it. And that's the key.
That's a good point. And we want to get teachers trained, and like teachers that have been trained, to use that also as a great model, because the teachers that have been trained, like Paige, know that this is the best way to reach out with the best resources and the best books and the best lessons, because there's so many inappropriate ways to do it that a student can be more traumatized, actually. And we don't want to do that to anybody. And that's really what we're looking for, the best tools. And I think both of you know the model way to do it. And that's what we want to share. And again, the comments have been coming in. I'm watching. I don't know if you've been watching, but the longest table is your hit, Joe. You were the star from this today, actually. Come back to you. You know that. You know me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We've got a lot of tables at Childs.
Yeah.
Okay. I could see that as a community event, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't that be great if Childs could host it, I think.
I think so. And we do that with so many other topics, but I think it's really good. And really when you do have, whether it's food, faith, those are really what you call disarming things, right? Because everybody to a certain extent has it, or to some degree. And it's sort of like, that table is a kind of a safe space. We're good right here. And, and sometimes when somebody just kind of pulls their heart out, but you're making a friend, mm-hmm. and you're making connections, and it's sort of like, it's like the old saying, if let's meet out here in the middle, and then next I'll go to your house, and then you come to my house, and then we just realize we're people at the end of the day. you know.
And that's what it's all about.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I want to plug the Holocaust commission, the commissioner's task force for Holocaust education. They posted on Instagram just today a really great list of Holocaust education programs for educators that are coming up over the summer. One of those being Herc's Holocaust Education Professional Development Seminar that will be hosted through TCC July 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th. All of this information is available on Herc's website as well. I think I just want to make sure we did not do a shameless plug, but because it's not shameless. I think that this is an important thing that we're going to be doing that I really wanted to bring attention to as we're talking about how are you creating responsible educators. So be on the lookout for the program series this summer. I think that it's going to be a great resource for educators as they either take time to plan their lessons plans for the next year, or if there is taking personal time and want to see how they can further themselves over the summer.
Thank you so much, Chase, for reminding. So we got a lot of training going on, and we're going to have more programs. Thank you both today. And this was a great discussion. And we'll get back to everybody on our longest table. But this has really been good. Okay.
Thanks for inviting, Barbara.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Bye.